Record to the cloud, and we're live. Hello everyone to the next Keptn community meeting. Today we're gonna do a quick review of the latest beta that got out last week, Keptn 060 Beta 2, and also the changes in the specification that go hand in hand with this release. We will take a look at the enhancements proposals that ties into the specification repository, as we will see later on. And we will review the issues that will most likely make it on the 06 release. So let's get started with the release we did last week. It contains, well, small enhancements and a couple of bug fixes from the previous 06 beta. So on the one hand, it implements the Keptn specification 011, and we will dive into the details about that in a couple of seconds. We have some new features, for example, that we now also support Nginx on EKS, that we allow you to configure a custom domain when using Nginx and not only when using Istio. The Lighthouse service forwards the custom data to SLI providers. So this is a very important feature for all the third-party system integrators that want to or have to actually forward data that is necessary in the SLI provider. So my best example is from our good friend Henrik from the Neoload service. So Neoload, for example, has a unique test ID with each test run. And if you want to gather metrics for that specific test run, you need to have that test ID in the SLI provider. So we now provided the functionality that you can add custom, and there's Henrik. So we can provide custom data in the SLI, in the events, and that is then propagated to the SLI provider, so you have the data where you need it. And we also extended the event so that the deployment is included to the SLI providers. That was needed because if you do a blue-green deployment, you need to specify for which version you would actually like to gather SLIs. So in this case, you can select, do you want to gather SLI metrics for the canary version or for the primary version? We got rid of the fluent bit piece because we were not actually using it. And it was just like a thing that is still installed every time we set up Keptn, but no one uses it. And it will help us slim down the resource footprint again. There is a chat message. Are there other SLI sources in the works? No, there are not other SLI sources in the works as of now. But we're happy to accept contributions in that area. So we got rid of fluent bit, and we also improved the, let's say, the resource footprint when you make a quality gates only installation. So we leave out services like the Helm service, the Genita service that we actually don't need if we only do quality gates, which is a good thing. More. Okay, thanks guys for taking that message from the chat. We also have an enhancement in the CLI. So now we allow to specify the start and end date and time for the start evaluation. So previously this was like just the time frame. So like for the last 10 minutes, and now you can specify start and end date time, which will most likely also make it way easier to integrate into existing, let's say, CD tools. So for example, in implementing the quality gates use case in a Jenkins pipeline, for example, where you of course have the start and end date time of your tests anyways. We fixed the issue with node ports that are generated in the help chart. And there are two known limitations as of now. So quality gates standalone use case right now doesn't work on OpenShift. And if I remember correctly, there is something to do with the ingress configuration on OpenShift. We I think have it in the release for 06 in there that we will use the OC routes for that, but there is some research necessary. And in fact, this is like only a let's say, syntax error. So we always talk about the new artifact event also in the CLI, where in fact, if you say send an event new artifact, it actually sends a configuration change event. So we will find a way to get rid of that small glitch. All right, so much to the 06 beta 2 release. There's another question. Will in future be able to adjust the deployment and testing strategy once a project and services are already onboarded? If I remember correctly, and please team correct me if I'm wrong, you could already do that. You just would need to update the shipyard file. And with the execution of the next flow, the shipyard file is read from the configuration store, and the specified actions are carried out as defined.
For the deployment strategy, actually this is untested. For example, consider you have a direct deployment now and then changing to blue-green deployment. We have to generate some additional resources like virtual services, destination rules, and so on. And what we have to do is to verify whether these resources are also correctly generated when we change this deployment information during after a service is installed or onboarded. So we still need an issue which says to verify this. Technically, it should be possible.
So Rob, you can give it a try and then can give us feedback if as Andrea said, it's not tested. In theory, it should work. All right. Going to the next agenda point, it was like the update of the Keptn specification 011. So these two things have changed, and we already had that in the beta release also. So we have now a deployment field for get SLI and SLI down to distinguish between the primary and the canary version when retrieving SLIs for a service. And we've added a description for the remediation strategy in the shipyard file. We talked about canary deployment strategy. Is that still planned? So I really like this discussion about canaries and blue-green deployment. So basically, canary for me is a release strategy where you shift traffic to a second deployment that in our case is now called canary. So this could be somewhat confusing, I understand that. In fact, we haven't implemented canary releases yet. We will wait until we have the workflow engine for that, because otherwise it would be too much logic and too complicated in the service that does that. About the canary deployment, you could compare it to a blue-green deployment, basically, and we support that already. Is there a mock-up for the new 06 Keptn bridge planned for January? Yes, there is, and in fact, I can pull this up later on. That's a good point. So if I forget, please remind me. Right, these were the changes in the specification. Now we have a new repository. It's called Keptn Enhancement Proposals, and this process. So we've looked around at other open source projects and how they handle their specification and changes in the specification, and we looked in detail on the Open Telemetry project. And they have also a specification project where they handle the specification, and they have an enhancement proposals project. And we also now follow that approach. So if you want to have a change in the specification, we would ask you to fill out an enhancement proposal. And actually it tells you in the documentation what you need to do. So we call them KEPs, Keptn Enhancement Proposals. And you should basically fork this repository and write down your proposal in the text directory. And here is a description on what should actually go into a KEP, into an enhancement proposal, and what should actually be handled in an issue. So just for bug fixes, issues are just fine. If you want to have some behavioral changes of Keptn or any core service, this is something that would need to go in a Keptn enhancement proposal. So for example, the self-healing use case was a Keptn enhancement proposal. And here it says in detail what you need to do to write one, and it has several stages, so it can be proposed, approved, or rejected. And here it says we borrowed that process from the Open Telemetry enhancement proposal, and we're looking forward of receiving plenty of enhancement proposals from your side. So feel free to add one or two. Coming to the next point, release plan for 06. And I will quickly go through the issues that we have. And just because the issues are here, this is not like a guaranteed that it will be in the release, but we at least plan for it. So we want to have an investigation of Helm 3 since it was released a couple of weeks ago. If we can replace it with the current Helm version we have, which would also make the installation easier because we can get rid of Tiller. But this is more, as the label says, a research story. Now we want to improve the Keptn installer and improve the waiting times for ingress. We will do an update on the CLI so that you can't install the wrong version anymore. So we had problems with that with the 06 beta release, with the first one, that the installer all of a sudden didn't install the latest stable version, but the beta version. So we need to improve on that end. More. So for the new enhancement repo, just to confirm, are we still using Keptn GitHub repo issues section and this new repo for enhancements? Yes. Yes. Right, we want to start, we want to extend the cloud event, and in this issue it says only the start evaluation cloud event, but in fact I would like to see this change in all cloud events actually, that you can extend it with labels, and with labels I mean just key value pairs of data that go into the data block of the Keptn cloud events, and that would enable you to, for example, pass arbitrary data as labels, for example, as like a Jenkins build number or a neoload test ID to all cloud events, and these labels are then also stored together with the evaluation results, and you would also see them at least at one point in time in the Keptn's bridge, so you could also filter for them in the Keptn bridge, and one of these labels could also be started by Hendrik and build number 17, and you could then also filter for those attributes. So this is what we're going to do. Then we will improve the Dynatrace service. So right now, the Dynatrace monitoring setup is done through shell scripts. We will implement that through the CLI as much as possible, and also allow to set up management zones and dashboards for services and all of the auto tagging rules automatically. We will move away from the config map that is right now used to store the SLI config and move it to the Git repo to really follow through with our GitOps approach. We have a story that will allow you to install a Keptn version without the dependency on Kubernetes. So from what I've heard, we will use micro-K-s for that. So you can run Keptn as a single process on a VM or on a physical host if you want. And you don't have the dependency to Kubernetes anymore because that is abstracted away by micro-K-s. So we need that for for example, for quality gate standalone use cases where there is no Kubernetes anywhere. Allow project names with hyphens. So we have that feedback from Christian. And this is a minor issue we have in one of our services, and we will get rid of that. It's called feature here. I would argue it's a bug. We will provide a functionality to expose the Keptn bridge. So right now you would need to issue the kubectl port forward command to expose the bridge. We will add a feature that allows you to do that maybe through the CLI or through a configuration, so that the Keptn bridge is also accessible through the public IP address where also the Keptn API is accessible, just a different port. We've implemented the self-healing use case with Prometheus, and now we will also, as we've stated in the use case description, we will build functionality coming out of the box with Dynatrace and Prometheus. So this is the Dynatrace part that is missing. This is also very interesting because it ties together with the issue that we had before. So we will make sure that you only can install the server version of the CLI version that you have right now. And to that end, we also want to have the ability to check if there is a newer version of Keptn already available for you. And we will do that through the CLI. So most likely, and it already says it here, you can opt out, but once a day we would check if there is a new version of the Keptn CLI available for you that brings you new features. Update to Helm version 3. So this is then the implementation story to the research task. It's not yet 100% sure that we're going to do that. It depends on how much it actually takes to rework that. The quality gate standalone will work on OpenShift because we're going with the OC routes instead of the Nginx ingress. Simplify release. This is an internal issue. This is something we really need to do. So the quality gate standalone use case is not documented yet. So you will find the documentation for that one in the tutorial section. And there are 2 bugs that we discovered in the course of the last days, that the Nets cluster, when the Nets cluster is restarted within the server, then the distributors need to reconnect to the server. So this is a really technical detail here. And that we need to be more allowing when it comes to query parameters for the events API endpoint. So this is a lot of work that we have planned for release by January 20, 2020. It's a nice date, by the way, 3 times 20. Awesome. And that is basically it. So are there any questions right now that we could answer? Oh, there is someone in the chat. Just the enhancements, meaning the enhancements issues. Yeah, you would write a Keptn enhancement proposal in your fork and then create a PR on our master repo, and this would then be the issue that we will discuss. I hope that clarifies it. So, any other questions so far? Because if not, I actually looked up the calendar when the next community meeting is going to be, and December 23rd is when most of our guys are already on Christmas holiday. The next would be January 6th next year, which is public holiday. That leaves us with January 2020, which is coincidentally, I now realize that the date of the release, of the planned release. I will circle back with the team if we start the next year on January 13th, or if we stick to the schedule and start on January 20. There is one more message in the chat. Rob, I will reach out to you afterwards to discuss the new bridge. Yes, let me reach out to you afterwards with regards to the repo questions. So there is going to be an information in the Slack channel if it's going to be January 13th or we stick to January 20th. And now for the wireframe for the new bridge. So this is how it will look like. And if you want, take a screenshot and write feedback to us. So most likely this pane on the left side will go away because we had a lot of filters in there initially, but we don't need them anymore. So up here you will have a Keptn project selector where you can switch between different projects. Then here you will find a list of all of the services that run in that project that are onboarded. You get an overview of all the stages of the overall services and how much are in a failing state, for example, and the rest relevant event. And for each of the services, you see all of the flows, either if it's a deployment flow or a problem flow. And if you select one of those flows, you get the view that you already know. So you get all of the events that belong to that flow on the right side. You have a mini map here where you can quickly jump to the stage that is most interesting to you or to events that raised an error or other important events. And basically you can then go into detail and see what is this all about. And for the validation, for example, we will list all of the SLIs if you want to expand this section, and you will also have a visual representation of how the SLI performed over time. And you have a global time selector, if I may use that term. All right, there are 2 more questions. Thank you, thank you. Okay. So if there are no other questions, then I would close the meeting and give you back a couple of minutes of your day. Since the next meeting is on January 13th or 20th, I want to wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year from the Keptn team. See you guys. Bye-bye.